Hello and welcome to the Gamedev London podcast, a community of amazing people who love talking about and sharing their love of the details behind making games, whether or not they're actually based in London. I'm your host, Oscar Clark, and I'm on a quest to understand everything you wanted to know about game dev, but never dared to ask. And today I'm delighted to be joined by my mate, Hanneke, who is not in the games industry. She is my actual friend in the real world. Hanneke, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you.
So the reason I've asked Hanneke to join us is because I thought we should explore the idea of what is a game. And in particular, I thought, well, let's kick that off by asking someone who's not in the industry. So rather than all the preconception what we have as game designers and programmers and developers, let's ask someone who plays games. So, Hanneke, let's talk a little bit about yourself. Who are you and how come we're talking about games?
Yeah, I think I'm quite a hardcore gamer. I started when I was 10, still going. 30 years later. I'm Dutch. I ended up living here in England because of the game.
This is like 2008 you came over, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2008 I came over. And yeah, I've never stopped. still going.
Well, we've known each other for most of that time as well. But I think what's a fun story to sort of explore and very relevant to this conversation, and part of the reason why I asked you actually, is the reason why you came to the UK. At least one of the kind of the triggers of how that happened.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I started playing World of Warcraft. Before that, when I was young, I played Commodore games and moved on to the PC kind of games and then PlayStation games. And World of Warcraft, I'd never played an online game before or any game where you interact with other people. And I saw it in shop, started playing it, still playing it. I was walking around doing some questing, and I needed some help in game, and I did a bit of a shout out to anyone could help, and some person turned up, and we sort of joined, and there was another guy walking around, and I was like, hey, come on, you're doing the same as me, come and help. And he was like, and I said, oh, come on. So we started helping, and so we ended up questing together for a good 2-3 hours. And then we didn't finish. So we said, shall we meet up tomorrow again? So the same time and do some more questing together. That was in the time when World of Warcraft still sort of required you to play with other people, because now you can do nearly everything by yourself. But then it was really difficult. And so we just ended up doing that. And we did that most days. And the same sort of group of people and some other people joined. And we had like the
classic clan thing going on.
Yeah, me with 3 guys, and we sort of swapped and did some quests there, Oh, look, I'm online. What are you doing? Oh, I'm doing these quests. Oh, I'm also needing to do these quests. Let's join. And we started chatting and started talking, and it was all really nice, really friendly, and very fun. And and then we started sending emails like, oh, I'm going to be planning to do this and this today. What are you planning to do today? And that just sort of got further and further.
And before you know it, you're getting married and you're flying over and living in the UK.
Yeah.
So, it seems to me that what you've described there is something quite essential about particularly World of Warcraft and the online games, is that relationship you built that was, it wasn't just some random person, although I guess it kind of was. It became someone who was now your other half, Kevin. So a real world relationship formed. Now, back in even 2008, and I started doing online, running online game platforms in the industry in '98, so like 10 years earlier even than that. But we were already seeing in those times that the impact of game playing has a profound connection that I think really changes the way that we look at what entertainment is.
Yeah.
So what was World of Warcraft to you at the time when you started it? Why was that something that appealed to you?
Uh, the box with the fairies.
The box.
No, it had like the.
We should probably add that you and I share a very similar taste in science fiction and fantasy novels.
Yeah.
So,
but it was just the books, and it had like this purple night elf person on it, and it was very nature-like. And I thought, oh, I'm into that sort of stuff. I like, and I started off with a druid because it could change into various animals, and I liked the idea. But then I became a hunter because you could tame various animals, which was even more cool. It was just the magical fantasy world that drew me in. That I was like, oh, I want to be, and I think very much World of Warcraft pulled me into that fantasy world. It was it's a very strong world where I don't know it.
No, I totally get it, and the thing, there's a lot of dedication involved in playing a game like that. You've got, I mean, you mentioned it. You've got to set up a time frame to come back on a regular basis. You've got to have space in your life to do that. Yeah. You had to collaborate in that particular game quite extensively. There's quite a barrier to entry, I think, for those kind of games. But it seemed like was it the social payoff, or was it the exploration in fantasy? Was it the narrative of the world?
All of it, really. But especially the social side is still, now that, I mean, I don't play that much anymore because they've just pulled out yet another expansion. The expansion's been now for a year, I think, and at one point you've done all the quests, you've seen it all, and then I get a bit bored. But the social side sort of still pulls you in a bit. Mainly because I'm on a WhatsApp group with some guildies, and on a Saturday they go, oh, we really need some people to come and do some DPS, and I go, oh, okay, then I was gonna sit in front of the TV, but I'll help them out.
I got out and they pulled me back in.
I helped them out, and it's just I made a very conscious decision to quit gaming for a bit when I gamed literally to the day I gave birth. What better to do in your maternity leave than
exactly.
games? But yeah, then until my daughter was about 2.5, I didn't game at all, because I felt I couldn't, especially a game like World of Warcraft, you can't just stop because you'll die. You can't do any group work because you're putting the rest of your guild and your group members at risk if you're doing a dungeon or whatever. And you go, oh, sorry, my child's just crying. I'm just going to leave.
It just doesn't work. But that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think what it says about, there's a kind of changing behavior in what you need from a game. So behavior is the wrong word, but you go through modes of different stages in your own personal life.
Yeah.
Changes the external needs that you've had that get in the way of the game.
Yeah.
And a lot of games don't really pay that much attention to the fact that somebody's lifestyle might change and some of their needs might change. Did you find yourself looking to other games instead?
Every time when a new, at one point, this was quite early on in World of Warcraft, I think, they brought out Rift, and a load of our guild all decided to do the beta testing for that. So we ended up basically with our whole guild doing beta testing for Rift. But then when Rift actually came on the market properly and became the proper game, I don't think many of us decided to play it in the end. And the same happened for Lord of the Rings Online, and the same happened for Star Wars Online, and the same happened for the Elder Scrolls Online.
And this is it. So you just mentioned, so you didn't just play World of Warcraft, you went off and you played Lord of the Rings Online.
I did beta testing for nearly all of those. But I never ended up really I played most of them, but never up to a level where I did raids or any dungeons with other people. Sure. Always just a bit of questing, level up some characters, but not even ever any to the end level. Because I don't know, World of Warcraft always pulled me back in, because it was my original game where I knew the people, and it's like, oh, you're here, and I haven't seen you for 5 years.
Yeah, it's a nostalgia thing, isn't it? I mean, I never got hugely into World of Warcraft I played for 3 months and realized I'd probably get divorced if I'd played it any longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a story there too, I'm sure. But I remember playing Millennium 59 back in the day. In fact, I can go back as far. I'm so old that I remember playing the MUDs, in particular Shades, which was a thing over a dial-up modem. But I mean, it's interesting that a lot of the games you've played have had that kind of kind of massively multiplayer kind of feel to it. So you mentioned doing a lot of the beta tests. What and kind of you mentioned is that you've never had enough of a draw to keep you in those worlds or to make you want to do the kind of social aspect in the same degree.
No.
Is what was the reason? What barrier did you have doing that?
I think in some of the games, I don't think the social aspect was that strong. Like a lot of when we started World of Warcraft, and you see the same again happening now in World of Warcraft as well. But when I started it, you needed other people. There were a load of things you couldn't do without joining other people, and the way to join other people was to physically ask them. There wasn't a button you could press and then you ended up in a group with a random bunch of people. You did the thing and then you're done and you leave, which is what's happening now. So that's what they've changed. They've changed making groups easier. So you can be completely anonymous. You can never talk to a single human person. You can just press a button. Yes, I want to join a group for this. They chuck you all together in a group. You do the thing, you leave. But then that wasn't possible. If you had a quest with a bunch of elites, you needed another person's help. You couldn't do that by yourself. No. You were sort of forced to socialize with other people.
Yeah.
And
but it's interesting how that became so much of a glue for your attitudes for games.
But that was also kind of the reason why I quit Lord of the Rings Online, because by the time I played it a lot slower than a lot of other people, and I found that I did need help for doing quests as well, but there was just no one to help. So I got stuck. Because I need help for these quests, but most people who were playing Lord of the Rings, they were already a lot further on and they weren't doing those quests. So the world was just empty. There wasn't enough people to do stuff with, and so it was too hard. And then I ended up quitting.
I get it totally. I mean, it's interesting as well because I realized that I didn't play World of Warcraft as much, not just because I knew it absorbed me too much, but actually because even though I love social games, I'm a very antisocial player. I want to go and do it solo because I mean, like we hardly ever see each other because I'm always bloody working. So I always try to do things like this and talk about games. So let's talk about some so we talked about the betas. What do you play games outside of the sort of massively multiplayer? So I mean, for example, do you do stuff on your phone?
I play loads of games. Mainly word games. I love word games. Just all there's a few that I've been playing for a very long time, and again, they're sort of social because you play them against other people, so you do need to find some person to play with.
Are we talking about things like Words with Friends type?
Yeah, like that sort of stuff. Yeah, and I have one that's called Crypto or whatever. I don't even know what it's called. Cross. That's what it's called. And that's like a game you play against another person, and it's just with letters and words. And there's like a little quiz game in that asks you questions, and you have to fill in words. I have played those games where you have to match up things, but I get really bored of those after a while because.
But it's interesting. What language do you choose to play in with those word games?